Have you ever looked at an F1 car and thought, wait a second, why are the tires completely smooth? No grooves, no treads, no ridges or patterns like you'd find in your own car. Just slick, black, bald rubber. At first glance, it looks wrong, like someone shaved the tire clean, like it's unfinished. And yet, this bald tire is a pure genius F1 innovation. And there's a very specific reason behind it. Smooth and shiny tires aren't just for looking good on camera. They shine for something way smarter than it seems. And I'll break it down for you in just a second. Because in F1, when you're cornering at 280 kilometers per hour or braking from 330 into a hairpin, you don't want decoration. You want maximum contact. And that's exactly what a slick tire gives you. Pure, uninterrupted rubber on tarmac. No grooves, no channels, no air gaps, just friction. But let's rewind the clock, because F1 tires weren't always this way. Back in the 1950s and 60s, tires were narrow, tall, and deeply treaded, more like motorcycle tires than what you see today. They weren't built for grip, they were built to survive. The goal wasn't maximum lap time, it was getting to the finish without blowing up. The compounds were hard, the construction was stiff, and racing in the rain meant, well, good luck. As the cars got faster, tire technology had to evolve. The big turning point came in the late 1960s, when Goodyear introduced the first slick tire to Formula One, and it changed everything. For the first time, tire designers realized if you eliminate the tread, you increase the contact patch, and more contact equals more grip. It was a light bulb moment. Suddenly, cars were cornering faster, accelerating harder, and braking later than ever before. The slick tire revolution had begun. From there, it became a science. Throughout the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, F1 tires exploded in width. Rare tires got as wide as 18 inches, miniature steamrollers strapped to a V10 engine. Compound chemistry became an arms race, and then came the tire wars. Goodyear, Michelin, Bridgestone, Dunlop, Pirelli. Every manufacturer battling for supremacy, not just in branding, but in grip, wear rate, heat tolerance, and performance over a stint. Some compounds lasted forever, others were lightning quick for 5 laps, then fell apart. Tires could win you races, or destroy your entire weekend. That era was chaotic and incredible. But by the late 2000s, it was over. In the name of cost control, consistency, and spectacle, Formula One went single supplier. From 2007 onward, one manufacturer would supply all the tires for the grid, first Bridgestone, then Pirelli. And with that shift came new regulations, standardized compounds, and a more controlled environment. But the one thing that didn't change? Slicks were still king. Because when it's dry, nothing beats a racing slick. No tread equals to maximum surface area. Maximum surface area equals maximum grip. And maximum grip equals peak lap time. It's that simple. But there's a catch. Slicks might be the fastest tires in the world, but they're also some of the most fragile. They operate in a tiny temperature window. Too cold? No grip. Too hot? They melt. Too much wear? Performance falls off a cliff. These tires are high-maintenance divas, but if you treat them right, they'll reward you with cornering speeds that bend the laws of physics. Still, they're only useful in one condition: bone-dry asphalt. The moment the rain comes, everything changes. Because a slick tire on a wet track is like trying to sprint in socks on a soaked kitchen floor. Slippery, unstable, and one wrong move sends you spinning. That's where grooves come back into the story, and that's what I want to show you next. So, we know slick tires work best when it's dry, but the moment rain hits the track, that magic grip, gone. See, slick tires are like ballet shoes, designed for grace, precision, and speed, but only on the perfect surface. Add water and it's like asking a ballerina to dance on an oil-slick floor. It's chaos. Now, picture that chaos at 300 kilometers per hour, because slick tires have no way to push water aside. There are no channels, no grooves, so instead of cutting through puddles, they float, literally. The tire rides up onto a layer of water, and you lose contact with the asphalt. It's called aquaplaning. And at that point, you're not driving anymore. You're skimming across a wet surface with zero control. It can happen at just 60 kilometers per hour. Imagine it at 280. That's why when the rain comes, F1 teams switch to intermediate or full wet tires, both with deep grooves specifically designed to evacuate water. Let's talk numbers. Each full wet tire can eject 85 liters of water per second. That's 340 liters total across 4 tires, every single second at top speed. That's enough to fill a backyard pool in under a minute. And when you see onboard footage from a wet race, when a driver is buried in spray, blindly following a blinking red light and guessing where the braking zone is, that's when you realize just how important those grooves are. They're not just there for traction, they're survival. Slick tires in the wet, that's like showing up to a basketball court in soccer cleats. You might look fast, but you're going to hit the floor hard. Meanwhile, wet tires are like off-road boots, rugged, channeled, and ready to find grip where slicks would just give up. Their grooves slice through water like rain gutters, channeling it outward to keep the rubber planted to the road. But they're slower, heavier, less precise, because all those channels that help in the rain, they reduce surface area, and in the dry, that's a deal breaker. So here's the compromise. When the track's damp, teams run intermediates, green-marked tires with medium grooves, designed to handle light water while still offering some of the slick's precision. But once the surface dries fully, back to slicks. Every time. Because in Formula 1, grip isn't just a luxury, it's currency. You trade it for lap time, for confidence, for moves that shouldn't be possible. But there's one more reason why F1 tires are smooth, and this part might surprise you. It's not just about traction, it's about predictability. Treaded tires flex. The rubber blocks deform, shift under load, and make the tire harder to read. But slicks? They offer clean, consistent behavior. The driver always knows what to expect, when the grip is coming and when it's about to go. That consistency is key when you're threading a car through a high-speed chicane with millimeter precision. No guesswork, no surprises, so yes, F1 tires are completely smooth. And that's not a flaw, it's a feature. Because when you're pushing to the absolute limit, when every tenth of a second counts, when cornering forces hit 5 Gs, when 20 drivers are fighting with 1,000 horsepower weapons on the edge of chaos, chunky, groove tires don't cut it. You don't want cleats, you want belay slippers. Okay, so now we get why F1 tires are smooth, but how are they made? What makes them so, extreme? They're made from a secret mix of synthetic rubbers, carbon black, resins, polymers, and oil-based compounds. Each formula is different, so much so that even teams don't know the exact recipe. It's a carefully guarded secret, controlled by Pirelli, F1's exclusive tire supplier since 2011. And every compound is heat-sensitive. You've probably heard commentators say things like, "He's getting his tires into the window," or "He's struggling with tire temp." That's not just TV filler. Each tire is designed to work at a specific temperature range, around 90 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius for dry compounds. Too cold, and the tire doesn't grip. Too hot, and the rubber starts to melt and blister. That's why teams use tire blankets, those thick heating wraps you see in the pit lane, to preheat tires before mounting them. Because going into turn 1 with cold slicks, that's like skating in socks on tile. It's a crash waiting to happen. Now, talk about construction. F1 tires are directional, asymmetric, and reinforced with Kevlar steel belts and nylon inside. That internal structure gives the tire strength, but also affects how it deforms under load. Engineers tune that stiffness to match different track surfaces, cornering demands, and a car balance. But even with all that tech, they don't last long. An F1 soft tire, your grippiest, fastest option, might only last 15 to 20 laps on a high-degradation circuit like Barcelona or Silverstone. That's like 100 kilometers before the grip falls off a cliff. Why? Because the rubber is so soft, so sticky, that it literally tears itself apart under extreme downforce and heat. It's like using the world's sharpest chef's knife. It's precise, it's beautiful, but it dulls fast. Same with tires. Harder compounds last longer, but sacrifice grip. It's always a trade-off, and that's where tire strategy becomes a race of its own. Do you start on softs and try to build on early lead? Or run longer on hards and hope for a safety car? Do you switch to intermediates at just the right lap as the track starts drying? Or gamble on slicks with puddles still on the exit of turn 5? In F1, tire choice can win or lose you the race, just like Lewis Hamilton in Turkey 2020. Nursed a worn set of intermediates to the finish while everyone else pitted again. Championship clinched. Or Lando Norris in Russia 2021 stayed on slicks too long as rain hit, from hero to heartbreak in 2 corners. Because in this sport, tires aren't just part of the car, they are the car. They define how late you brake, how much speed you carry into a corner, how early you can hit the throttle. They're the only thing connecting 1,000 horsepower to the ground. 4 palm-sized contact patches. That's it. And whether those patches are slick and smooth or grooved and ready for war, they're what separate control from chaos. You'd think the fastest drivers in the world are always going flat out, foot to the floor every lap. But in Formula 1, speed isn't just about pushing harder. It's about knowing when not to. Because with these tires, there's a dark art at play. It's called tire management, and it's one of the biggest things that separates good drivers from the greats. Let's break it down. When a driver says, "the tires are going," they don't mean the rubber's falling off the rim, they mean the performance is fading. Maybe the surface is starting to grain, where small rubber balls build up and reduce grip. Or blisters, when too much heat causes the rubber to bubble and break. Too much sliding, you overheat the rears. Too much steering input, you destroy the fronts. Brake too late, push too hard, lean too much into traction zones, and those magic slicks that were perfect 5 laps ago, now they're junk. That's why some drivers are called tire whisperers. Think Sergio Perez. The guy can extend a stint longer than anyone. While others are boxing for new tires, Checo's still lapping in clean air, saving rubber and waiting for the race to come to him. And it's not just about saving tires. Sometimes you have to push, but only at the right moment. That's where radio strategy comes in. You'll hear race engineers say things like, "Let's lift and coast," "Target delta," "Protect these tires, we'll attack later." That's code for "back off now so we can strike later." It's chess at 300 kilometers per hour. Even the driver's style matters. Smooth inputs, avoiding wheel spin, modulating brake pressure. Everything affects the life of the tire. And sometimes, it's about tire language. Drivers know the car is sliding a little more. Understeering, oversteering, struggling for rear traction, and they feel all of that through their hands, feet, and even the seat of their pants. That feedback? It goes straight to the pit wall, and from there, strategy changes. Box to this lap, switch to plan B, go long, we're waiting for rain. Because tire degradation isn't just physics, it's psychology, it's timing, it's control. The best drivers, they don't just use the tires, they dance with them. Managing the peaks, avoiding the cliff, and knowing exactly when to push and when to pause, it's what wins championships. It's what turns a car from good to unbeatable, and it all comes back to those slick, strange, completely smooth pieces of rubber. At first glance, F1 tires might look like just rubber donuts. You know, smooth, bald, strangely simple, but they're anything but. These tires are chemistry, physics, and race strategy all wrapped into one. They're the only part of the car that actually touches the track. 4 contact patches, each about the size of a postcard, deciding whether you fly through the corner or fly off into the wall. Slicks give maximum drip in the dry, inters and wets carve through water in the rain. But it's what the drivers do with them that makes the difference. Managing temperatures, avoiding wear, timing pit stops down to the lap, or even the corner. If you learned something new about the dark sides of F1 tires, or just love watching drivers dance with the limit, hit like, subscribe, and stick around because next time, we're diving even deeper into what makes these cars fly. And don't worry, no tread required.